Well, thanks for staying with us. This is Newsline. I'm Michael Chugani. I have with me Regina Yip. As you know now, CY Leung is the chief executive, the new chief executive. He was elected earlier today. Now, Regina Yip, before the break, I was asking you whether you will consider becoming the chief secretary, the number 2 spot. Your answers were not very much to the point. I'm going to ask you one last time. There's been a lot of speculation that you will be offered, or you may be offered this job. As a matter of fact, the speculation was that both Henry Tang and CY Leung, before the election, had offered you this job.
That's not true.
One of them had offered you the job.
No, neither of them has. But supporters from their camp did suggest to me that I should take up the number 2 position to help out.
Well, their supporters suggested from their camp to help out. You used the words to help out. Right. Okay. So you can help out. You've got government experience. I'm going to ask you one more time. If you were offered, I know it's an if, but if you were offered the job, how seriously will you consider becoming the number 2 in Hong Kong as a chief secretary?
You see, taking up a real position of power has both pluses and minuses. The plus is that you can do real things for Hong Kong.
Which you want to do.
Not just exercising the power of veto or acting just as a watchdog. The downside is that you will immediately create new enemies. For example, as soon as a story broke that I could be under consideration, I noticed one tabloid started attacking me for 2 consecutive days for being ambitious, over-enthusiastic or whatever, That's one factor to be taken into account. But I think if one is really serious about serving the community, you shouldn't be too upset by these comments,
And I think you know how to fend off these comments.
Much more serious consideration is my responsibility toward my party, which is like my own baby, New People's Party. I must consult seriously within my party and assess the impact on the long-term development of my party, as well as the outcome of this September's elections.
Electoral elections.
Yes.
Well, your responsibility towards your party, I'm going to ask you this, is your responsibility towards your political party you would consider more important than your duty towards the people of Hong Kong? If you were offered the job of chief secretary, you would want to consider your party first before serving Hong Kong in that capacity?
Serving Hong Kong is a very noble calling, which one should take very seriously. But I do need to consult within my party. I have responsibilities toward them. And I haven't been made any offer. No, I never worked with Mr. CY Leung. I don't know whether he would invite me,
Do you think people say he's not trustworthy? He came on this show and I asked him to explain why people would think that, and he looked at the camera and he said, I am trustworthy.
You see, this is a point that my party debated at length Saturday morning before we came to a decision about voting position. We have former senior officials in from government within our party who said that they don't like Mr. Leung. They feel uncomfortable about him, But to be fair, I don't think you should write off somebody just because of certain gut feeling or some subjective perceptions. That's what I said publicly, And after all, Mr. Leung ran a good campaign. He's shown himself to be a determined, hard-working candidate, and I think we should give him credit and give him a chance. That's why my party decided to support him.
Many people say, Regina, that they are scared. They're worried. They're scared because Mr. CY Leung is the chief executive. I know CY Leung quite well, but many people say that they are scared that he is now the chief executive. He is an underground communist, and we should all be worried because we will lose our freedoms. Mrs. Anson Chan came out and said we will lose our core values. It doesn't respect our core values.
I think that's really overstated. That's really overstated.
Are you scared?
I'm not scared, because Hong Kong, there are a lot of different forces at work in Hong Kong. Naturally, to be honest, the influence of the Central People's Government. It's bound to be there. We're part of China. And then, but also the government has also have to pay a lot of attention to the wishes of the people. That's why the government made an about turn in last year's budget. And in the middle layer, very influential forces are the media and political parties and the civil service. Whoever is the chief executive would have to deal with all these forces, and find a balancing point. So I don't think any single chief executive, whoever that may be, would be so stupid or so powerful as to ignore our core freedoms. Sure. I think that's not viable. People are overstating these fears. Look at how influential the media and public opinion have been in the campaign which just concluded.
I'm going to pick up on that,
yes.
But you, C.Y. Leung and Regina Yip, the number one and the number two, a good combination, and you could lead Hong Kong. Because you're both tough characters, you could lead Hong Kong. You could lead Hong Kong well.
I certainly hope so, that whoever C.Y. pick, he will pick a winning team who could work together and lead Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong is in dire need of leadership, firm, decisive leadership.
Well, maybe you will end up in government. Who knows? Early days yet.
I don't know.
The election was just today.
Yes.
But I want to ask you, the mudslinging, and you said the press, the media did a very good job in unearthing these things.
Yes.
Some people said it was no longer a gentleman's fight. And you say, well, the media did an admirable job. But I want to ask you this. Do you think, you said the Central People's Government, the central government is obviously involved. We are part of China.
Yes.
Do you think that the central government was so taken aback that it could affect our future political development? If they see this not even a democratic election, and yet all this mudslinging took place, what happens in 2017?
I think the Central People's Government would really have to rethink their strategy and policies toward Hong Kong, because traditionally one would have thought that the small circle election would be more predictable. It would proceed according to script.
It didn't.
But it's been so astonishing, as you say. And then even within the establishment camp, the candidates were at each other's throats. So what's the point of having small circle election? Even though the last one has been a small circle election, the candidates were running as though they were facing the entire community. The media and public opinion polls played an enormous part. Premier One actually said that we need to elect someone acceptable to the majority. Acceptability to the majority is real. So I think the next time the leaders in Beijing must think hard about what sort of candidates are truly acceptable to the people.
So then, in other words, they've got to have real universal suffrage.
Well, we are having much more intense competition because we are moving towards a popular election.
Well, you said that Beijing central government must understand that people have got to be really acceptable.
Yeah.
The new chief executive acceptable to the people.
Like a modern politician, you need to be clean. You need to have reasonable standards of integrity. You don't need to be a saint, but you need to have the ability to handle PR crises, and you need to be a communicator.
Can Beijing accept this new reality, as you put it?
I think they're learning. I think they're learning through our experience.
What's so hard to learn?
Learning.
What's so hard to learn?
Well, democracy is a new experience to China.
Well, today, C.Y. Leung has been elected the chief executive, and he's only got 18% support in public opinion polls as reflected in this mock poll.
Well, until
the
mock poll, the rolling polls have been giving him from 50 to the latest 35%. The numbers have been dropping because of all the rumors, stories, scandals, so-called black gold politics, triad involvement and all that, all very colorful, very dramatic,
yes. We don't know what's true and what's not true.
No. But that's bound to have a negative impact on public perceptions.
Well, tell me this: the Democratic Party. They had Albert Ho. They had over 200 and something votes. In the end, Albert Ho only got 76 votes. They say they don't believe in this election, yet they had a candidate who took part in it, and then many of his supporters didn't even come up to vote. Did they play really? It wasn't even a spoiler's role. I don't even know what role it was.
They were trying to make a political point.
But they didn't.
Albert
make
Ho
it.
took part, but he didn't turn up on the stage. You know,
right?
It deliberately sort of pulled out of the field after the votes were cast. Then what's the point of taking part in the election if you don't respect the election? Don't take part in it.
Will it hurt them in the election in September, the LegCo election?
I think they're hoping that it will help them. Their point has been to demonstrate the farcical nature of the small circle election, but by their own behavior,
they were rather farcical.
They are not doing themselves credit.
Okay, I've got one and a half or so minutes left. Tell me this: what today, 25th of March? We have a new chief executive. He takes over 1st of July. What do you see ahead for Hong Kong? You see troubled times? You see a uniting of the community?
These are unprecedented times for Hong Kong. Such intense competition in a small circle election. And we've seen real cleavage in the establishment camp. And one of Mr. Leung's first tasks would be to try to heal the rift. You know.
Can he do it?
Well, I'm sure he will try very hard. And if he has the determination and the sincerity, I think he could pull that off.
But some people like Li Ka-shing said, I'm going to vote for Henry Tang. He seemed very angry and defiant. How are you going to win over the tycoons who all supported Henry Tang? Si Wai Leung needs their support.
I noticed that some of the property tycoons have quote, defected to the Leung camp. I think I saw Henry Cheng of New World standing on stage along with CY, you know. So I think Hong Kong people, we are learning. We're just beginning to learn the rules of the democratic game. As you know, in a democratic society, there are no hard feelings after the election. Hillary Clinton became Obama's Secretary of State after a cutthroat campaign, after she conceded. There are no hard feelings.